Hey everyone, this is Sayoxy with Triangle Gaming. Today I'm going to be bringing you a League of Legends guide. More specifically, this is going to be a top lane guide for Nunu the Yeti Rider. Now this is going to be a pretty basic guide, so we're going to take a quick look at Masteries, rune setup, and then an item build that I use for him. And near the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and throw in some gameplay footage, that way you can get a quick look of how he plays. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look at Nunu's abilities. We'll go ahead and start with his passive, Visionary. Nunu can cast a spell for free after 5 attacks. Now in the early game, this does help with sustainability on your mana. As the game goes on, it won't be as effective, but every little bit helps. Then we have his Q ability, Consume. Nunu commands the Yeti to take a bite out of a target minion or monster, dealing heavy damage to it and healing himself. This is a pretty good heal. It has a fairly short cooldown. It allows for great sustain. The only problem is, as it says, it requires a minion or a monster. You can't do this to other champions. So when you're going into a fight, be aware if there's minions around. So maybe if you need a quick heal, you can go ahead and eat one of them, get a decent chunk of health back. But don't rely on it in fights. Then there's his W ability, Blood Boil. Nunu invigorates himself and an allied unit by heating their blood, increasing their movement and attack speeds. Now, the good thing about this ability is it does cost fairly little mana, so you can almost keep it on you constantly. Don't forget that you can put this on an ally to increase both y'all's movement speed and attack speeds. So it'll help with chasing down enemies, also just help in any fight whatsoever with its attack speeds, and also if you need to burn a tower quickly, it'll help with that too. And then there's his E ability, Ice Blast. Nunu launches a ball of ice at an enemy unit, dealing damage and temporarily slowing their movement and attack speeds. Now if you build into damage, this ability does do quite a chunk of damage. The only problem is, besides his ultimate, this is pretty much his only damage output ability. But if you build tank, this is a good way to slow enemies and allow your team to run them down. And then there's Nunu's ultimate, Absolute Zero. Nunu begins to sap the area of heat, slowing all nearby enemies. When the spell ends, he deals massive damage to all enemies caught in the area. Now this does do quite a bit of damage if it's allowed to go its full duration. In low level of play, you probably will be able to get away with it. In high level of play, there's a good chance that you're going to be stunned, silenced, whatever. So you probably won't get it off. So it'll mainly be used as kind of a control mechanism for your team fights, just because of its slowing ability. Also, a note to remember is that when you're in the bushes, it doesn't show that you're casting this ability, so maybe you can catch an opponent off guard. Now for your max order, you're going to start off with a point in Ice Blast, and then you're going to get Consume and then Blood Boil. And then I like to put another point in Ice Blast and get another Consume, and then I'll fully max out my Ice Blast. And then the next ability I max out is Consume, and then Blood Boils last. And then of course, max out your ultimate as soon as possible. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Masteries for Nunu top lane. Unlike other roles as Nunu, which you usually will build tanky, for top lane you finally get to do a little bit of damage. I got 21 points in offense and 9 points in defense. Let's go ahead and start with our defensive. I got 2 points in block for a little bit of damage reduction, 2 points in enchanted armor for a little bit of armor and magic resistance bonus, 1 point in unyielding for a little bit more damage reduction, 3 points in Vervin Scars for a little bit of health, and 1 point in Juggernaut for 3% max health. And then for our offensive tree, got 1 point in Double-Edged Sword, a little bit more damage. Got 4 points in Sorcery for some cooldown reduction. 3 points in Mental Force for some ability power. 1 point in Butcher for a little bit more damage to minions. And then I got 1 point in Feast for killing a unit, restores 3 health and mana. If you're a little bit worried about your matchup and you don't think that you can win your lane or get very much CS, you may want to go ahead and put a point in Expose Weakness. That way you're not wasting a point in Feast. Then I got 3 points in Mental Force for some ability power. 1 point in Arcane Mastery for some more ability power. 3 points in Executioner to increase the damage you do to low health champions. 3 points in Archmage for a little bit more ability power. 3 points in Devastating Strikes for some armor and magic penetration. And 1 point in Havoc for increased damage. Let's go ahead and take a look at our rune setup. For Quintessences, I have plus 4.95 ability power. On Marks, I have plus 0.87 magic penetration. For Seals, I have plus 1 armor. And then for Glyphs, I have plus 1.34 magic resist. Now the Seals and Glyphs are just the flat rate, but if you want to go ahead and get the scaling armor and magic resist, by all means do so. They are better in the long run. So let's go ahead and take a look at the item build that I have set up. For your starting items, you're going to go ahead and start off with Doran's Ring for some health, ability power, and some mana regain. Then you're going to go ahead and take 2 health potions and a warding totem. If you're worried about a little bit of sustainability, you'll go ahead and take Dorn's Shield. Gives you a nice little chunk of health along with some health regain, and his passive, which also blocks damage. For your first recall, you're going to go ahead and build as far as you can into Catalyst the Protector, and then after that, the next item you're going to want to get is Boots of Speed. Now for your core items, you'll go ahead and finish building your Rod of Ages first. It gives you a nice chunk of health and mana along with some ability power. It also has a nice passive which grants plus 20 health, mana, and plus 2 ability power per stack, and the stack further increases per minute until it reaches a maximum of plus 200 health and mana and 20 ability power. After that, you'll go ahead and upgrade your Boots of Speed into Sorcerer's Shoes for some magic penetration. Now for these next two items, Void Staff and Rabadon's Death Cap, you will eventually build those, but for your third item, we're going to go ahead and jump down to your situational items. Now if you're against an AD, you'll go ahead and pick up Zanya's Hourglass for a pretty good chunk of ability power as well as some armor. It also has a good defensive active, which puts you in stasis for 2.5 seconds, making you untargetable. If you're against an AP, you're going to go ahead and take Abyssal Scepter, giving you a good chunk of ability power, as well as some magic resist. Now if you're going to need to be the tank of the team, you're going to go ahead and pick up these items. Relay's Crystal Scepter gives you a good chunk of health, along with some ability power. Leandre's Torment gives you some ability power, along with some health. Its passive, which increases your magic penetration. Then its other passive, which applies a damage over time effect. And then Guardian Angel gives you a good chunk of armor and magic resistance. And then it has a really nice passive. Upon taking lethal damage, it'll restore 30% of your maximum health and mana after 4 seconds of stasis. Now let's go ahead and go back to your core items. You can get these in whichever order you feel like you need them in. But let's go ahead and start off with Void Staff. It gives you a good chunk of ability power, as well as its passive, which ignores 35% of the target's magic resist. And then Rabadon's Death Cap gives you a really good chunk of ability power, as well as its passive, which even further increases your ability power. Alright guys, so I went ahead and set up some gameplay footage for y'all to watch. Hopefully it'll help y'all get a little bit of a look of how he plays. Hope you enjoy. Alright guys, so that's going to go ahead and do it for this guide. If you enjoyed it, go ahead, like, subscribe, and stay tuned to the channel for some more League of Legends guides. If not, thanks for watching, and have a good one.